Is there anyone else working the rooms on behalf of Canada, or is it just you and your team?
I haven't seen any Canadians who are here in an official role from the federal government. I don't know if they will tomorrow. I'll be going to the Canadian Embassy as the change to the inauguration has been moved indoors. We'll be watching the inauguration from the embassy, and I'll be able to have more conversations there. But my view has always been, if you're going to be diplomatic, lead with diplomacy, lead with a relationship, lead with common interests, lead with talking about what the Americans benefit from the relationship with Canada. So I've taken a bit of a departure, I think, from our federal counterparts, but I think it's the right one. I think that this is going to be the way that we ensure that the relationship does not get damaged as the federal Liberals are going through their inner party turmoil. That's the thing I find so distressing, is that they're not taking a Canada First approach. They're taking a Liberal Party First approach. They're turning the Americans and the Trump administration in particular into the bad guys so that they can campaign against them for their own personal political benefit, and that is not good for the country. So we're putting the country first. We're putting the relationship first, and we hope that we end up with a positive outcome.
It was sort of exciting to meet with her, and I didn't describe this part of it. We were at a hotel conference room in the heart of Washington, D.C., and she had this large conference room and all sorts of advisors, and she was putting through meetings as fast as possible. Like, I had to get in and get out in 20 minutes. I couldn't be late at all. I couldn't stretch it another minute. And she obviously went to Capitol Hill as well. I saw her the next day on the 20th at a inaugural ball event, again, schmoozing with different political people, journalists, making the case. She was tightly scheduled. She was meeting many powerful people. I have to guess that she has met more than 100 people, from Secretary of State Rubio down to oil and gas lobbyists to Donald Trump himself on a brief occasion. Can you say the same for Justin Trudeau, other than his one jaunt down to Mar-a-Lago? Where are the other premiers? Where is our foreign minister? She had a quick meeting with Rubio today, I think it was, or yesterday, hardly doing anything. Danielle Smith has carried the entire diplomatic force of our country for the last 2 months on this issue. And you know what? Thank goodness she has. Imagine if Justin Trudeau had been the irritating face of Canada in Capitol Hill these last 2 months. Joining me now to talk about Danielle Smith, the looming tariffs, and Justin Trudeau's failures is our friend Lorne Gunter, senior columnist with the Edmonton Sun, who joins us now via Skype from Edmonton. Lorne, great to see you again.
Good to see you.
It was very exciting to see Danielle Smith just operating. And there was James Rajat, who's sort of Alberta's ambassador. Provinces don't really have ambassadors, but he's Alberta's man down there. It was like she wasn't just wandering around aimlessly. She had a team just cranking these officials through. It was sort of exciting to see that a premier Alberta's an important place, but it felt like I was in the presence of a world leader. I'm just telling you how it felt aesthetically, and just to be in this buzzy place. That's how it felt.
Yeah, they've been very, very professional in all of this, and they've been grown up. Like everybody else, including Doug Ford from Ontario, who you would hope would know better but doesn't, they've said, look, the Americans have some complaints. Let's deal with the complaints. Let's see how far we can get by answering their concerns about illegal drugs entering their country from Canada, about illegal immigrants entering their country. Let's do that first.
Yeah.
Before we go into this head-to-head, dollar-for-dollar tariff war. We're going to get in a big fight with the Americans.
Yeah.
The Liberals can't resist that because they have to raise their popularity in the polls. And they also have just an innate hatred for Trump.
Yeah.
So he says something and they just immediately jump off. Like this whole thing started because Trudeau went down to Mar-a-Lago and Trump kidded him about maybe becoming the 51st state. And Trudeau threw his hands in the air and, oh my God, they're telling that they don't recognize our sovereignty, blah, blah, blah. Oh, please.
Yeah.
If they had just all acted like Smith.
Yeah.
And been more grown up about this, we would not be in this mess now.
Yeah.
Howard Lutnick, who's the Treasury Secretary nominee by Trump, said yesterday, well, so that would be Wednesday of this week, at his hearing before the Senate, that we don't want to impose tariffs on
Hmm.
Canada. If they sort out the border concerns that we have, we won't have to do any
Hmm.
of these. We might later on this year look at some tariffs if we think they're engaging in illegal or unscrupulous trade practices. But we don't want to put tariffs
Yeah.
on them, so we won't if they deal with their border, which exactly proves Smith's point.
Yeah.
And that is, if we had simply acted like grown-ups in all of this and negotiated with the Americans for a settlement on the border security, they wouldn't be as upset as they are. And I would say Canada would be better off too.
Yeah.
If we upped our border security, we're going to be safer.
Yeah. I want to play a short clip of that Howard Lutnick. I think he's one of the most important people in Trump's orbit.
I think
He was the head of the transition team for Trump. So he actually led the picking of all the other guys. And then he became Commerce Secretary, which is, I mean, as they say, the business of America is business. He has strong views on things. He's a consummate businessman. He was a CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, a major investment firm. He was actually devastated on 9/11, and he lost his brother on that day. So he has a lot of views on freedom and terrorism, and so he cares about terrorists crossing borders more than someone else would. And anyhow, let me play a clip from Lutnick. When he speaks, I think people should listen. And he's speaking so plainly here. He was talking to Michigan senator who was worried. And the Michigan senator, let me play a bit of a clip, said he was worried about sanctions on the Canadian side of the auto sector. He said, because we're so integrated. So here you have a senator from Michigan saying, hey, Lutnick, I love you, but don't hurt the auto sector. Watch this exchange, Lorne. I thought it was very illuminating. Take a look.
The short-term issue is illegal migration and, worse even still, fentanyl coming into this country and killing over 100,000 Americans. There's no war we could have that would kill 100,000 Americans. The president is focused on ending fentanyl coming into the country. You know that the labs in Canada are run by Mexican cartels. So this tariff model is simply to shut their borders with respect America. If we are your biggest trading partner, show us the respect, shut your border, and end fentanyl coming into this country. So it is not a tariff per se. It is an action of domestic policy. Shut your border and stop allowing fentanyl into our country, killing our people. So this is a separate tariff to create action from Mexico and action from Canada. And as far as I know, they are acting swiftly. And if they execute it, there will be no tariff. And if they don't, then there will be. But it's an action-oriented model. That's not the ordinary tariff. The ordinary tariffs need to be studied and examined, and that will start, as the EO said, in April.
So that's a separate tariff?
Correct.
After that study, what would be the timeline of that?
I think that's sort of in April. Those studies will come out in the end of March and April, and then you'll hear about those at that time. So big macro issues with tariff are being studied, but the micro issue is Canada and Mexico and the precursors from China. They need to end, and we need to protect our Americans from fentanyl. And our trading partners in Canada and Mexico, they should end it and stop disrespecting us and allowing this come through our borders.
Well, I think we all agree on secure borders. I'm with you all the way. Being a northern border state, the ranking member on Homeland Security, we want to do that. My concern, though, is what's going to happen in the April timeframe as to what could that mean in terms of increased costs to Americans, if not properly implemented or properly thought through. What sort of assurances can you give us that we will not see that when that second set of tariffs get implemented, or if they get implemented, but it sounds as if that's your plan?
Well, we are going to study the actions and the economy of America and how it works. But if you think about it, we need to grow domestic manufacturing. As you said, Michigan is one of the great places where we build things. And the car manufacturing went to Canada, it went to Mexico. It is important that that come back to Michigan and come back to Ohio and come back to the great states of America that can build. And so I think a thoughtful tariff policy that drives domestic manufacturing. I think is fundamental to the American workers, especially to the workers in Michigan.
Now, the thing about that is Lutnick's a businessman. He's got a bit of a flair, but he's a businessman first and foremost. He doesn't enrage liberals the same way Trump does. I think Trump has a way of just making people go cuckoo. And so you're seeing everyone from Trudeau to Doug Ford go cuckoo. Instead of Lutnick speaking and saying, look, guys, we don't want to put tariffs on you, just seal your border and it goes away. But everyone wants that fight for their own personal reasons.
Well, Marco Rubio, who's the incoming Secretary of State and was a senior senator from Florida, very, very smart guy. He had said when he was a senator, hey, I'm really worried about these 5,000 Gazans that the Canadians are letting in. And this was since the October 7th, 2023 attacks against Israel, because they're going to let in these Gazans because they feel really sad for them and it's a really bad situation. And of course, the federal Liberal government can't stop calling the Israelis occupiers and criminals. They're letting in 5,000 Gazans, but they're not doing proper security screening on them. So we know, we can assume that there will be a fair number of Hamas operatives in with this 5,000. And then they're in Canada. They're right across the border from us. What do you think the chances are some of them are going to sneak into the United States and commit terror acts? So, we may not be worried about that as a country. Officially, that would make us look racist. But Rubio was worried. The Americans all know that this is taking place. I'm sure the CIA is aware of it as well. I'm sure that Homeland Security knows, the National Security Agency in the United States. And so they know that we have a problem with our border. And the Liberals have been very unwilling to deal with it for a number of reasons. First of all, it's not a woke issue.
Right.
And they love to do virtue signaling rather than real policy. But also they would have to admit that their criminal justice policies are wrong, that their immigration policies are wrong. And when you consider that there is a big involvement in drug smuggling in particular that involves First Nations that straddle the border between Canada and the United States, you'd have to take your reconciliation policy and rejig it. And they don't want to do any of those things. So they have not for years dealt with any of the Americans' concerns. And now Trump comes along. And I don't think Trump really means he wants to put 25% tariffs. He's a blowhard, right? That's how he negotiates. He gets you at a table. You want to sell him 840 marble countertops for the bathrooms in his newest hotel. And so he's going to jerk you around and frighten you and make you think that you're not going to get the deal until you cut him 15% off the top. And then he says, oh, yeah, we can do business with that. And I think that's where he's at with us. He doesn't want to put tariffs on. He does like tariffs, and I don't understand that myself, but he does like tariffs. But I think really he said, well, let's just pick a number out of the air that'll scare the Canadians and the Mexicans. 25% seems like a good number. We'll just say we're going to put 25% tariffs on everything until they do what we tell them to do or do what we want them to do. And I think that's exactly where we're at. And I think, as you said early on in our interview here, Danielle Smith is the only one of the leaders in Canada who has recognized that that's what this is all about. And so let's deal with the core of his concerns. And if he still imposes tariffs, that's fine. Then, I'm okay with us bashing back at the Americans. We have some things that they really need. We have some rare earth materials that they want for defense construction and for electric vehicles. We have a quarter of all of their oil and gas that they import. Not that they import. A quarter of all their oil and gas is imported from Canada.
4 million barrels.
It's not a quarter of their imports. It's a quarter of all of their oil.
It's almost half their imports.
We're a big supplier. And so we do have some leverage, but let's not start doing that from day one.
And let's not make Alberta the punching bag, which is what the others want to do. Let me show you. I was very inspired by these photos that Danielle Smith put up on her Twitter feed. This is some of the new sheriffs and new special border patrol that is being deployed on the Alberta-Montana border. Now, the funny thing is, and we were just saying this before the interview, that Alberta-Montana border is not a hot spot for fentanyl and illegals. That's more the BC, Washington border and New York and near the big cities, near Toronto, near Montreal, near Vancouver. But it looks awesome. And that is a visual language that Trump speaks, that Trump's border and immigration czars, they will see those strong men in tactical gear with dogs, with drones, and say, those are my kind of guys. Like, it's a visual communication of, oh yeah, okay, good. That's secure, because that's what Americans want to see. And so Danielle Smith knows what she's doing.